Hi, my name is Joseph Garriger. I'm with Comic Book Movie. How you doing today, Kevin?
I'm good, Joe. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I was wondering if you could kind of explain for people who don't know what you do, what your job is behind the scenes, what you contribute, and then ultimately what was the hardest part of your job for this film.
So for Top Gun Maverick, I was the aerial coordinator of the movie as well as the lead camera pilot. So that means I was in charge of the safety, the logistics, and the overall help and collaboration of the mission planning. And I worked with my naval aerial coordinator counterpart, Brian Ferguson, to make sure that all those sequences were done coordinated safely and inside of all regulatory laws. Outside of my aerial coordinator role, I'm also a pilot, and I was the camera pilot for the movie. So all of the jet flying, all the jet camera flying, all of the helicopter camera flying was done by myself with an aerial DP on board, and an aerial DP is my counterpart. That is a gentleman operating the camera gimbal on the front of the jet or the front of the helicopter. And on this movie, that was David Knoll and Michael Fitzmaurice. So I'm lucky that I get to fly those two gentlemen around and put the camera in the right place at the right time.
Do you think that Top Gun, the original Top Gun, had any inspiration on your love for flight?
Huge inspiration. I was born the same year the movie came out in 1986, and I probably watched that movie hundreds of times growing up. Uh, my love letter to aviation started with the original Top Gun, and growing up with that movie on in the house all the time. So, absolutely, it was an inspiration. And absolutely, when I was working on this new movie, did I never stop thinking about the original and how it was nostalgic and how I had to pinch myself that I was working on this historic, iconic movie that I grew up with.
Right. And then you have done other films that are like, smaller in scope, like Ant-Man or other Marvel films. What is what has to change about your job for the bigger scope for an event film like Mission Impossible? Or, I'm sorry, like like
Same guy.
Top Gun.
So as an aerial coordinator and camera pilot, a lot of times on movies and TV shows like that, we come in as day players and we work, a couple days or maybe a few weeks if it's a big aerial sequence. The difference with Top Gun Maverick is it is a love story to aviation. It's a movie about aviation. So I kind of lived on that movie for a little over a year. So pretty heavily vested in the film, and a lot more collaboration. I got to work with Tom and Joe Kaczynski and Claudia Miranda and the Paramount team to also help make the movie and help design some of the aerial sequences and how we were going to shoot them and how we are going to use this new technology to help tell Joe's story. So a lot more collaboration, a lot more involvement on Top Gun Maverick than typical past feature films.
Now you've done multiple feature films with Tom Cruise, and you have worked on one of the Mission Impossible, at least one of the Mission Impossibles. Now that that franchise is continuing to burgeon forward, is that something that you're interested in revisiting as well?
I would always entertain working with Tom on any project. He's an inspiration to me. He's very motivating, and his primary focus, he says, his main goal in life is to entertain and make the best possible product for the general public as far as cinematic experience. I feel like I share that same goal just in an aerial capacity. I feel like one of my things, one of my purposes, one of my main drives in life is to make the best aerial cinematography possible. So I would absolutely entertain working on any project with him because I feel like we're pretty aligned.
That's an awesome answer. So, what do you think? Were there any scenes that you felt like you had trouble that maybe you weren't going to be able to pull off and you ended up being able to do? Or any scenes that you were just weren't able to include, period, because of the difficulty?
So part of our job and one of my main responsibilities was pushing the limits of aerial photography as far as what the aircraft could do, the camera systems could do, and what our people could do to the absolute limits without compromising safety. That was my primary focus. And if you think of the context of what I just said, every time we went out, our job was to come back with exceptional footage, not just okay footage, nothing boring, nothing floaty. We needed to tell Joe Kaczynski's story we needed to make sure we were shooting it in accordance with Claudio Miranda's photography and lighting and style. That was done through the aerial DP that I was flying. And we needed to make the best possible product. In order to do that, you have to really push the limits of creativity and what's possible, again, without compromising safety. So, what I would answer is yes, every shot of that movie was thought out meticulously, and we pushed it as far as we can push it to make sure that we made those incredible shots in every sequence.
Now, obviously, you've done a lot of films, and you take a little bit from every movie that you do into the future. What would you say that you kind of took away in Maverick that you hadn't necessarily experienced before to a certain degree that you would use going forward?
Well, this is going to be tipping my hat to Paramount because what I learned on Top Gun Maverick was that the great amount of time and expense that was spent on making sure that we did this practically for real, meaning real mission, real airplanes, tons of flight missions over and over again till everything was perfect. What I learned was that the world, the public, really loved it. And we can see that in the box office numbers, right? So the money that was spent, the time that was spent, the energy that was spent to make this movie what it was, that cinematic experience, all real flying, real practical stunts, I think the world has taken pretty kindly to that. I think they love it. And I think the lesson learned there is that, you know, sometimes the right way is the hard way. And we took the hard way on Top Gun Maverick to make this incredible movie as a team, and it's paid off.
And I think that a lot of what you say about like pushing yourself to the limits, but while being safe, that echoes Maverick, and I think that's pretty cool that you guys had parallels behind the scenes that way. Um, I want to know then, lastly, before I let you wrap and go on to your next interview, what kind of things did you experience that you would like to share on this film that people don't ask you about? I'm sure you get the same questions over and over again, but what types of things, like little nuggets, do you have in your head that people don't dig out?
I want to share the unique camaraderie between cast and crew and naval counterparts throughout the movie. If you think of a year's worth of filming, our triumphs, our lessons learned together, but everybody's general aligned drive to make the best possible movie ever, the best cinematic experience, the best sequel in history. We were all aligned, and we pushed ourselves every single day for this common goal, this driving force, and it felt really good. It was an amazing team. So much briefing, so much debriefing, so much watching footage and learning. So much great direction from Joe Kosinski and Tom Cruise, and so much talent with the cast, and so much involvement. I would say more than I've ever seen. So I just can't stress enough how many hours and long days. And even once we were wrapped for the day, meeting afterwards at dinner and sitting there discussing how we are going to make the next day even better. Like we never shut Top Gun Maverick off. It wasn't just a job. Top Gun Maverick was the crew's life, and that movie was so very special to us. So that's what I would share, was just the meaning of the movie to the cast and crew and the people that made it, and a big thank you to Paramount for allowing us to be part of it.
And I think that you can definitely see on screen the bonding process, like how well it came across with like the team. So it's really good to know that behind the scenes, everybody was kind of on the same page and everybody had as good of an experience as what came through on the screen. Now, that is going to be my time. So I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. And good luck with the rest of your interviews and keep being you.
Thank you, Joe. Have a good day. It's good meeting you.
You too.